Welcome to the Apprenticeship Works Podcast, episode 2. Coming at ya. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with my hands once we get to episode 11, because I've only got 10 fingers. But we'll figure it out then. Hopefully, we're still on the air at that time and doing podcasts, helping apprenticeships across the country. One person pointed out that we made it through all the way through episode 1. I never said my name. My name is Lorne. So there you go. Hopefully if you're watching this, you know who I am. But if you just stumbled upon it, yes, I'm Lorne. I'm hosting the Apprenticeship Works podcast. And it is going to be awesome. We're going to bring people into the trades. This week's episode is all about the recent AHR Expo in Chicago, held from January 22nd to 24th. It was amazing. The weather wasn't. But that they can't control that. The show, mind-blowing. Now, before you think this is just going to be only about the show, no, I'm going to break into how the relationships that I made are good for business and how they relate to your business. Let's start off with just the size of it. The first night I got done and I was talking to my son who had a basketball game that night on the phone. And I was just telling him how big it is. So he looked it up on the phone while we're talking. 2.5 million square feet of floor space here at the McCormick Place in Chicago. So that is the first thing. If you go, and you should go, I'm going to say that multiple times throughout this podcast, make sure you wear good socks and walking shoes. It is like drinking from a fire hose, the old saying goes. You can be at one booth and you can be engaged, talking to that person. You see a product that is just, wow, you make this? I've thought of this. Or I thought, boy, shouldn't there be something like this? You look at it, you're so amazed. You give them your badge and you say, beep, send me some info. You go to the next booth. They start talking to you about something. You can't even remember what you talked about at the last booth because there's just so much. There's a north side and a south side of this building, and then there's a walkway where you eat a quarter mile away. On the one side, every single time I went in there, I got lost. I had to get to the outside wall and just basically go around until I got back to the door to get to the main pavilion. So the enormity of it. If you want to go for the full 3 days. Fully experience it. Try to see everything. Let's start back at the very beginning. I did a great job. I pre-registered. I got it in the mail, my pass. I'm all good to go, but I see a line. So we instinctively get in lines, right, as human beings? So I get in this line, and I'm not joking. It is that quarter mile I was talking about down to the food area. So it goes down and comes back until it gets back to the main check-in area that does the back and forth airport kind of thing to finally get you your passing so you can get admitted. So I jump in line as soon as I get there. 45 minutes into this line, I'm back to almost getting into the airport style cattle back and forth weaving until you get up there and one of the nice workers is saying, hey, make sure you have your registrations open on your phone so that they can just scan you and it'll go quicker. And so I pull out my envelope that has my badge in it, and she just puts her arm around me and said, oh, son, you just wait in line for nothing. This is what these people are getting, and these people are in line to get. Like, oh. So there was my first oops of AHR that I will not make the mistake again. It's one of those things that I did right, and then I didn't know I did it right. So I got in the doors, and that, again, is where I am mesmerized. I don't even know where to go. I picked this event to be kind of my coming out party, to say, hello, world, here's Apprenticeship Works. We want to tell the world, we want to help companies grow, and where can we just find tons of periodicals and other plumbers and other podcasters, influencers that we can connect with and try to build up the workforce in America. And so picked this back in the fall saying, I want to do this. And so I was going to say right there, I'm trying to talk less with my hands because that was a comment a couple times. So, I'm new at these podcasts, so I gotta learn. So all feedback is good feedback. Comment below. So I'm in and I'm walking around. I make one loop of the smaller side, which is still enormous, but I make some great contacts. The first group I run into is the BNP Media Group, and they do some great magazines that we probably all have come to our shops. And I start talking to somebody and they say, yes, wow, this sounds great. We would love to maybe do an article, have you write an article for us and maybe be on our podcast. So hopefully that's in the upcoming works, but it gave me this warm welcome as I'm going around, like, okay, wow, I made the right call. Then the old purchaser in me gets a little too eager, and I start going around booths, and I get a little bit too much into products, but there is so much there. So much. I can't say it enough. If you've never been, you gotta go. And my point on that is you need to schedule going to next year to Orlando, or the next year after that Vegas, or the next year after that Atlanta. It's a 4-year rotation, I found out. And why do you need to go? You need to go because you need to know what's happening in the world of HVAC. Or if it's plumbing, maybe get yourself to KBIZ or the Wet Show. There's plenty of other these shows, these big expos that are going to make your business better. That by you learning what the new products are, you can actually grow your business that way too. Not just in the way that we talk about in bringing people in. So, be frank with you. If you're not willing to go and invest and take some younger people with you to these shows, you probably need to start thinking about succession planning, because you're not in it for the long haul. The technology and the HVAC in the plumbing world right now is just jumping exponentially. So if you are not on top of it, or if you are only relying on your distributor or your wholesaler to give you those updates, you're behind the 8 ball. You're dealing in dinosaur times. You need to see things. You need to expand your knowledge. This was a great event to see all those things. It's the same way I talk. If you're not willing to bring people into the trades, if you're not willing to share your knowledge, then you need to do succession planning as well for that reason, because you don't have a future. And so if you are planning on being around, invest in young people, invest in training, and then take those young people to shows like this so they can get excited about the future. There's going to be things that you look at and say, man, I'm not going to use that in a million years. And they're going to look at it and say, wow, that would save a lot of time. Why haven't you always used that? They're not thinking wrong. They're not lazy. They're just thinking different. So we got to get on board with that. So I make my first loop around of the one side, the smaller side, the non-getting lost side, as I would like to call it. Then I get outside into the main pavilion and I find the huge map on the wall. Because where is the podcast pavilion? This is what I came to see. This is the people I came to rub elbows with and mingle with and try to pick their brains a little bit. I'm standing, I'm watching one of the podcasts as it's going on live up on stage, and somebody sitting down looks at my name tag and just kind of makes out the word apprentice. And he says, oh, are you an apprentice? And I kind of laugh because, like I referred to last week, I got some grays going on. Not that everybody can't be an apprentice at any time, but I'm a little past the apprentice age. But no, I said, no, actually, that's my company, Apprenticeship Works. I get the word out. And we start talking. It's like, I talk to business owners. Well, his name's Dennis the Apprentice. I'll try to maybe pop it up here. It worked last week. That was so cool when I used this green space to put words up there. I know, I'm excited about these things. Hopefully you can be excited with me too as we go on this journey. So Dennis the Apprentice, he's a business owner, was a business owner, sold his company, and he has a cameraman with him, which, by the way, I told my kids on the way home, somebody's coming with me next year to Orlando just to be my camera person, because you know how cool you look walking around with a camera crew. Of course, everybody wants you to interview them if you have your own camera crew, not just holding up your phone. So that's on my goals for next year. But yes, his digital media specialist and himself are sitting at a table having lunch. I had packed my lunch. We start talking. He says, no, I had a business and I sold it, but now my goal, his passion is to give little tidbits that he's learned along the way to apprentices. And I said, well, I talked to the owner, so really we can do a lot of work together. And another gentleman walks over who does a podcast local. And he starts talking. I was like, wow, I do this, that I kind of try to talk to business owners about business strategies and things and that. And wow, maybe some of these could be incorporated in. So it was working. The networking aspect was working great. So the day one ends and I have to head to my hotel. Now I want to tell you a hotel story. This is going to be on camera, so it's there for all eternity. I will say, when I booked a couple months ago, when I decided I wanted to do it, yeah, it was a big step. I'm gonna go to AHR. This is huge, and it's in Chicago. I should do it. And so my wife at the time says, "Why don't you just book your hotel now too?" Well, like, I don't need to book a hotel all the way back, in the fall. That's silly. So then I waited to December, and they're full. And then beginning of January, yeah, still full, and So at this point now, I do just say, I'm going to wait till the Sunday before I'm going to go and hope there's a cancellation. Well, I start calling around on Sunday. None of the major hotels that are affiliated with it, that have the shuttle services, had rooms, of course. And so I did find one within, 1.9 miles. It was a nice place. I can't give it too bad of a review. It had a great view. But this is on camera me saying, honey, you were right. I should have booked the hotel at the same time that I booked the conference. Then I would have saved myself some driving, just taking the shuttle or walking. It was only 1.9 miles, but it was sleeting every day. So really didn't want to walk in the sleet. Now, we're at day 2. We're going to hit it hard. We're coming back at it. We go right to the podcast pavilion this time. And now all of a sudden I meet some people that are big in the plumbing, HVAC podcast world, some influencers. And so I'll kind of name drop them. I meant the HVAC jerks. I met the pipe wrench. I met Coach Alan Carlson. And the coolest thing about all of these influencers is how down to earth they are. They are still plumbers and HVAC technicians at heart. True blue and all the way through. They had no problem just, hey, yeah, let's talk. Let's sit down. Tell me about you. Okay, what do you do? And so it was great. That part made me feel amazing, that you can get into this circle as long as you have something of value to share with the world, and others are going to be willing to help you out. So thank you to all the people I've mentioned so far, and hopefully I didn't forget anybody. So the rest of day 2, I really did spend walking around, trying to talk to people. So that was fun, interacting with business owners, interacting with the distributors and the manufacturers, talking to their education departments to find out what do they offer to make apprentices better. So when I talk to your company and we're talking about, hey, you got to get your school growing and you got to get these guys or girls trained, and how do you do it? Well, there's some good resources out there. And so that was great. And that took my whole time. Day 2 was 100% a success. So day 3, I woke up and my main goal was to get the kids some swag. You go to an away event, you need to come home with a souvenir or something, and there is a lot of cool giveaways there that I had been walking by because I was there for work. But I thought I should probably make sure I come home with something. So early in the morning, Takeo Comfort Systems, they put out a post on Instagram that said, swing by our booth to win a Yeti. All you have to do is do a post from inside our booth and use the hashtag that we want you to use. Bam. So I start talking to the person there. And all of a sudden, another connection is made. Did another couple of those type of places throughout the day that were just great. I ended up being invited to a Calliope panel of passing down the torch between generations. So they had some industry leaders, some award winners, and then they had some up-and-comers. And it was really about how to get the trades, the knowledge passed from that generation that learned so much, that developed so much, to the next generation. That is super important. So I was kind of grateful to be invited to that. There was so much to do. There are panels. There's education seminars from the beginning to the end. There is constantly education going on that you can pop into these rooms at the other end down by the food and you could sit in on virtually any topic you can think of. There was also always, constantly, in the north side or the south side, I'm not sure which one. It's the one I got lost in all the time. But there was a whole section on new products. So for a half hour, for the entire length of the show, companies got to talk about their new product in there. You could find out everything. One of the more interesting conversations I had was AHR Mexico. Just was talking to them, and they said, boy, we still need some podcasters. So I am available if you want to take me to AHR Expo Mexico. But I told them I don't really speak Spanish. So that could be a problem. What I want to tell you is it was a blast. It was a great experience, and I really encourage anyone who's even thinking about going one of these shows. And again, it doesn't have to be the AHR Expo. That's what I chose to go to. But if you want to get to the WET show or the KBIZ or any of these other regional ones that maybe aren't quite as big, go learn, go better yourself, go meet other people in the trades. We're not enemies. We all need to get back to working together. And so once we start laying that foundation of always having this learning, training, always getting better philosophy, and then we reward our younger generation that's coming up along. So that's why I would challenge you, make a goal at work next year and take a master, a journey person, and an apprentice. Have all three of you go, because you're going to see different things, or you're going to see it from a different way, and that's going to be very valuable. And so, but it'll also show them that it's kind of a reward. It's kind of a something to look forward to, especially if you're from northern climates. Going to Orlando next February will be amazing. So I'm looking more forward to that than I did to Chicago. Just throwing that out there. Chicago, you're great, but Orlando in the middle of February is going to be really awesome. All right, I'm going to sign off now. I hope you had a nice little review. And again, it wasn't so much about how great AHR Expo was, which it was, but it's more about how can you use an event like this to better your company. I know I came back full of energy, full of ideas, full of excitement, things that I want to implement, things that I want to do, people that I want to connect with on every platform, all the way down. And so that kind of excitement, you need that once in a while, especially in the dull of winter. So I'm signing off, and I can't wait to talk to you next week on the Apprenticeship Works podcast.